Although I have an extensive stash of buttons, none were just right for my Madrid sweater. But worse, when I went shopping, there were few offerings in color and in size. So I decided it was time to crochet my own. These super easy buttons take just minutes to make, and you always get a perfect match. Plus, you only need a yard or so of yarn for each button. Since the trim on the intended sweater is a combination of Yarn Bee's Flawless Mist and a specialty yarn called Charm, I use the same yarns to make the buttons. Size depends on the buttonhole and the simple cabone ring.
I purchased an assortment of cabone rings. They range in size from a 1/2 inch, 7/8, 1 inch, 1 1/2 inch, and 2 inch. From the various sizes, I narrowed it down to the 1 inch or the 7/8 inch. Both of them slipped through the buttonhole quite nicely. But the 7/8 one has one advantage. Once you start working the crochet around the cabone ring, it's going to get bigger. And this one was just made it. And if I add more to the 1 inch, it's not going to fit as nicely. So the 7/8 inch one wins. I'm going to leave an 8-inch yarn tail, and I'm choosing a crochet hook that's one size smaller than what I would normally use to crochet this double strand of yarn. So normally an H would work here, so I'm going to choose a G hook because I want this to be nice and tight. So we're going to insert the hook and pull up a loop. Then I'm going to yarn over and chain 1, but I'm going to pull the 2 yarn tails through to the right side, and I'm going to pull it up nice and snugly. This is important to get started correctly. I'm going to leave the thick yarn in the back, that's the flawless, and I'm going to lay this yarn over the cabone ring so that I work around it and weave this specialty yarn in. And then I'm going to insert my hook back into the ring and around the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, and complete a single crochet. And I'm going to continue to work single crochets all the way around this. I'm working very tightly, as tight as I can get it to go. And I want to make sure I get both my strands together. There we go. And you see how the color is just coming through from that specialty yarn? Makes a really attractive button. So I'm getting all the way to the end, or so you think, because I'm going to slide this back to make it even that much tighter. Okay, now this has been buried, this short end of this one has been buried enough. I'm just going to trim that off because I don't need it anymore. But I'm going to continue to work more single crochets. Now I'm getting close to the end again. Oops, get up through that. See if I can get one more in, and that's when I'm going to stop. Now I can simply cut my yarn, but this time instead of 8 inches, I'm going to leave 10-inch yarn tail, about. So I have a nice yarn tail. I'm going to pull this end through both those pieces, and that's the one I'm going to work with. This one I'm just going to leave hanging there, and I'll come back to it in a little bit. I'm going to thread both these ends up into my darning needle, and all I'm going to do is with the right side of the button facing me. Now, you can see that this is the right side of the button because I can see both loops. If it was turned over, you only see one loop on the outer edge. And I want to see both loops because I want to take this piece of yarn and insert it from the back to the front under the back loop only. I'm going to twist my needle around and pick up the loop of the next one. Twist it around, pick up the loop of the next one. Twist it around. You can only go about 4 or 5 stitches. Now, I'm going to hold the beginning yarn to the back, and I'm going to pull this through. Okay, then I'm going to continue and go under the back loop only, just like I did. I can do 3 or 4 or 5 here. I can get 5 in here on this one and stitch it through. Go to the next 4 or 5 stitches. So I'm just picking up the back loop of each one of the single crochets that I did into the ring. And when I get back to the beginning, and I'm catching every single one of these stitches, and I can see where my beginning is because that's where my yarn is. Okay, so I'm pulled it all the way through. Watch what happens. Now I'm going to pull it tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And the button just closed up. Now I'm just going to stitch through to help weave in this yarn tail. Oh, it's not coming through. It's so that tight. We'll get it. You want it to be tight. There we go. Now, this piece of yarn, the specialty yarn, can be clipped right off. We don't need it. It's just for coloration. Then we return to here, and we continue with our thicker pieces of yarn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch under these and pull it up tight. All that does is close up that button a little bit more. Now, if I look at the top, do you see how nice that button looks? And it's almost like a shank button because there's a little bit of a back. Now, that's the one that I ended with. Here's the one I began with. And all I want to do is bring this yarn tail so it comes out closer to the center. That's all I'm doing, is bringing it to the center. There. Now, I'm going to use my specialty knot, where I just do a regular knot. But on the next part of it, I bring this yarn to the front, and this one I bring into the back. So I get a double knot. There. Our button is finished. There it is. Let's see how it fits. Here's the buttonholes that I made. And here's my button. And perfect. So now all I have to do is use these yarn tails to attach it to my button band in the right place. So that's what they look like when they're attached. And they perfectly match. That's it.
I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy crocheting!